Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of OK Xoomer. As always, I'm your host, Aaron Lichtig, Xometry guy and former Jeopardy champion. And I'm very excited to be here today with our first race car driver guest on OK Xoomer. His name is Jonathan Eshom, and he is a development driver for the US Racetronics Race Team. Jonathan, welcome. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited about being on the show.
So first of all, tell us about how you got into auto racing. And you mentioned on your LinkedIn profile that you are an Asian American race car driver, which is somewhat rare. So I'm curious to learn how you first got interested in this activity.
So it really goes back to my grandpa. He wasn't a race car driver, although he was racing from the cops in the 1950s, which is pretty funny. And so he really built Pinewood Derby cars and just model cars in general. He was a teacher. And so it kind of was passed to my dad. And then my dad, he's not into racing as much as or cars per se as much as I am, but he got my grandpa a Richard Petty driving experience, which is I guess it's like an interactive experience where you can go in a NASCAR, which is pretty cool. You go around for a few laps, and then they get to let you drive the car as well. And there was a go-kart in the garage, and my dad had me go sit in it. And I told him, I think I can do this. And he bought me a go-kart for Christmas, and that's kind of how it started. Originally, we just started out, doing it for fun and, just going out, having fun. It's like a father-son type thing. And eventually we started to move our way up. We started to be competitive. We started to win races, and we got faster and faster. We started competing on the state level. And, we didn't really reach the type of exposure that would be attracted to like development programs such as like the young drivers programs for McLaren, Ferrari, those types of level. But as luck would have it, my dad ran into one of his patients. My dad's a doctor, and he ran into one of his patients at an Indycar race that we were at. And the next year he came out to watch me race. And that's kind of how we got into where we're at right now. So it was really the connections that we had that helped us get to this level.
Nice. And what are some of the either most challenging or most fun opportunities you've had out there on the track?
Well, when I was younger, I did race against some pretty prominent names. Two of them being Lance Stroll, who's currently in Formula One, racing for Aston Martin, and Colton Herta, whose race is in Indycar right now. So, I could say that I've raced up against some world-class talent. That's definitely one of the coolest things about my career so far. And, just being one of the rare, Asian Americans, like you said, in the sport. Our team is also based on or built by minorities, which is really cool. And it's something that you don't really see very often.
Cool. So when you think about engineering and the role that plays in your work as a driver, how does that kind of come to life? How do you and your team think about engineering when it comes to your car?
Well, our cars are really based off the road production version. So the car behind me is the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo car, which is the car that we race. So a lot of the parts, the moving parts and the components, I would say maybe close to 90% of the parts are the road production parts that you can find on a road production Huracan. And sports car and racing in general is more of a marketing platform for them to highlight what their cars are capable of to the markets that they're trying to sell to. But in terms of, car setup and stuff like that, that's where the engineering really shines. I know on our team, at least, and it varies from team to team, But on our team, each car has its own designated race engineer who has a degree in motorsport engineering, which is really beneficial. And we analyze data. We can do a lot with the tires. I know most people think that the surface area contact on the tire is always flat. But what people don't know is that you can change the camber and caster. So I don't know if you can see my hands. So these are the tires. What we can do is we can change them to make the surface area of the contact patch on the tire either more or less, depending on what we want to get out of the car. And same goes with toe. So the toe would be like if we want the tires actually pointed straight, or if we want to point them inward, which sounds crazy. Like, why would you want to have them pointed inward towards each other? But when you factor in the contact patch, it could significantly improve lap time and tire degradation over the course of a race. Another thing we can do is the caster, which is if the wheels are straight, we can push them forward or backward. And that allows, like I said, increased tire wear and stuff like that. We can do, braking. That also helps with the braking force on the car. And then another big thing is downforce. So downforce is the amount of air that flows over the car, and it basically sucks the car to the ground and keeps it on the ground. And that giant wing on the back, we can alter the level of that to increase or decrease downforce accordingly, depending on the track.
Wow. So there are some small things that you can do. You can't really modify the entire car.
Right. Yeah. So we can't change the engine unless we find like a catastrophic failure. So like if a cylinder blows or something like that, then we can obviously change the engine, but we're not really allowed to like alter the engine in any way, shape, or form. But so most of the stuff comes down to like I said, the setup of the car. I think we can change anti-roll bars and stuff like that to make the car stiffer, or change the suspension a little bit. But that's where the engineering really highlights itself in sports car racing. And the higher up you go, so like when you get to prototype racing, for example, that's where the engineering is really even more highlighted, in the fact that you can, most of the teams have to manufacture their own parts. That certainly goes for Formula One, where the entire car has to be built by them from scratch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those small changes can make a big difference over the course of a long race.
Oh yeah, they can. A small change like that could lead to 2 or 3 tenths gained on a track, which is, 2 or 3 tenths may sound like something very minuscule to any normal person, but in racing, 2 or 3 tenths is like the equivalent of 2 or 3 minutes. And that's the difference between finishing first and second sometimes.
Yeah, those the minutes are a big deal in a race.
Yeah.
Cool. So you, in addition to being a race car driver, do you have a day job?
Well, as of right now, I am still a college student. I graduate in a couple of weeks, so yay for me.
Congratulations. Where are you studying, and what
I study business and marketing at University of Channel Islands. It's a Cal State school.
Oh, cool.
I do kind of consider racing my full-time job, although if you were to ask my parents, they would say otherwise. But I think right now the focus is going to be on trying to make this dream that I've had since basically I was 8 turn into reality.
That's great. Well, Jonathan, best of luck as you pursue that dream. And thank you so much for joining us today on OK Xoomer.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll be back again in another couple days with another episode of OK Xoomer. Stay safe, everybody.